I almost lost both of them. The day our son was born was not the beautiful experience that a lot of parents describe when it comes to their birth experience. And I know in some ways, me and my wife both feel as if we were robbed of that movie magic moment that birth was supposed to be. But that's the reality of the world, that not everything's perfect, that chaos exists at every corner, and that there are things in life that you can't control, no matter how badly you want to be able to. So let me share this moment of absolute fear, this moment of panic, this moment of the unknown, this moment of adversity, this moment of life or death, because we will all be faced with it at one point in our lives. And I know this isn't the last time. We had a fairly normal pregnancy until it wasn't. My wife had a day or two where she just didn't feel quite right, but then we sort of brushed it off. But at a routine checkup about 4 weeks out, I brought it up to her doctor that she wasn't feeling right. The doctor said that it's probably nothing, but he went ahead and checked it out anyways. And it was definitely not nothing. Her blood pressure was in the 190s, fucking stroke level. The doctor said, I hope that you're ready to have this baby in a week, because that's happening. I thought to myself, only a week? Holy shit, we had 4, now only have 1. The doctor said, come back tomorrow and we'll do a recheck. We came back and it was the same, if not worse. The doctor tells us that my wife has signs of preeclampsia. The doctor said, I don't know what your plans were, but you're not leaving this hospital. The doctor said it'll be a few days before the induction medicine kicks in, so you better go home and get your house ready. So we started calling family members, letting them know what was happening. I went home to clean the house, feed the animals, get groceries. And while I was out, I messaged my wife and I didn't get a response. I tried calling a few times later and no response. I think to myself, what else could she have going on? She's bedridden at this point. And my gut just starts screaming at me that something's not right. I didn't even put the groceries away because I was in such a rush. I speed to the hospital and I see my wife doubled over in excruciating pain, vomiting her guts up. 5 medical staff rush into the room. Her doctor comes in and tells us that she doesn't know what's going on, but action needs to be taken immediately, otherwise we could lose both of them. A couple of days turns to now. They take my wife's limp arm and sign a consent form, because she can't even sign it herself. Because the only way to possibly save them both is to remove the baby with an emergency C-section. They throw me scrubs. I rush into the bathroom to put them on. And as I leave the bathroom, they're rushing my wife's gurney into the emergency room as I sprint behind them. We enter the surgical suite and I can see the panic in the doctors' faces as they're scrambling around the room. My wife's eyes are fluttering and her skin's yellow. And in that moment, the surgical screen was put across, but it wasn't enough. And in that moment, I saw the insides of my wife's guts being moved around as they tried to get our baby out. They began jerking her around, trying to get my son out because the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck and he was having trouble breathing. My wife began to bleed out into her abdomen and they couldn't figure out why. And I was given a choice to stay with my wife or go with our newborn son. Any moment, either of them could have passed away. And that choice plagued my mind throughout the entirety of that day. What if the other one dies and this was the last moment I got to have with them? My wife got out the words, go with the baby. And so I went. They were able to stabilize my son. They were able to stabilize my wife and get her back to her room. But unfortunately, her preeclampsia had progressed to full-blown HELLP syndrome. Neither my wife nor my son could be in the same room for several days. The emotional pain of going through so much to bring life into this world, yet you don't even have the strength to hold your beautiful creation. My wife had lost so much blood, she had to have multiple blood transfusions. Her platelet count was so low that the doctors were afraid her organs were going to fail or that she'd have a brain bleed. Back and forth between the rooms I went, checking on my old love and my new love. Around the clock, doctors coming in every 30 to 60 minutes for weeks. We spent around 14 days in the NICU. This was due to low oxygen scares with our son and my wife slow to healing. There was a high chance that neither of them were going to survive this whole ordeal. Approximately 60% chance that my son would die and a 20% chance that my wife would die. Yet they both pulled through. And then what felt so suddenly chaotic felt suddenly so peaceful. We were on our way home with our new baby in his car seat that looked way too big for him with his 4.5-pound frame. Like many things in life, it definitely wasn't perfect and it definitely wasn't pretty. Quite honestly, it was one of the scariest moments of my life, but it was our real experience. And I think we all have a better appreciation for the fragility of life because of it. I think we're all stronger because of it. And I think these experiences outside of what it should have been like should be normalized, because I know that we're not alone, and that alone, well, I think that should be celebrated.